Cal Tinsley, Tinsley Performance. Obviously, if you're watching this video, you're going to have a movement screen in front of you. If you do not have your movement screen right now, we will get that information to you. This video might be kind of right after y'all's evaluations. And so what I'm trying to do is go over, in general, what we're looking for and why we're doing this movement analysis. So I'm going to try to work this technology and see if I can get this thing figured out. So this is one of our assistants, Jared McCurdy. We just kind of made a made up movement screen. So big picture, this is one of the main things we're looking at here, and the shoulder, hip and core, knee and ankle region on the right and left hand side. So note that this is kind of backwards, so it's as if the athlete is looking at us or you from the other side of the computer. So the right hand side's on the left and the left hand side's on the right. And I just want to go through these exercises and kind of show you what we're looking at. So he scored a 54. Again, this is a made-up athlete, but we're typically seeing in-house about a 54 to 55, maybe up to about a 60, depending on the screen that we use for most of our athletes. So it's not like too many guys are scoring 80 and above. Now, if you're in that category, then awesome, you're moving well. Now that just gives us the green light to get after it with our strength and conditioning program, and we should be thumbs up with that. But if you are in the orange or yellow, which is anything from 60 to 80, or if you're in the red, which is anything below 60, we definitely need to make sure that you hone in on this and check out your key areas for improvement, and also just kind of understand the overview of what we're looking at here. So we're looking at the sport. We're looking at a baseball team here. Right-handed athlete, 6'1", 200, shortstop, age 21. All right. So all this is made up again, but what you're going to find here under the total score, you're looking at the key areas for improvement. We don't have anything down here for Jared, but what we're looking at, typically, I'd say there's 5 or 6 different categories we're looking at. So we're looking at ankle range of motion, ankle stability, single leg stability. We're looking at core and pelvic control, thoracic rotation or flexion. Okay, so that's the upper spine. So can we rotate and flex properly? Do we have good shoulder range of motion above our head? Do we have good external range of motion with our throwing side and non-dominant side? How is your strength? So we've done some strength testing, forward, out to the side, internal and external strength down there by your side, and a couple other things I'll kind of get to as we roll through this eval. So those are typically the key areas for improvement that you're going to see. So I'm going to try to zoom in here and show you your first exercise, which is our squat with our hands elevated. So we're going our hands elevated here. We're getting down to a good squatting position. These are the different criteria that we're looking at. So you have 8 different criteria. Do your arms fall forward? If your arms fall forward, then that's showing us possibly a lack of range of motion in our lat, our serratus. If we have any pain in our shoulder, that we could have AC joint impingement and there's some pain up there. So that's one of the things we're looking at. I'm going to pull this video down and see if y'all can kind of see some different things. So if you're looking at your squat here, we're looking at arms elevated. If we go toes out, that could be an issue, whether that's tight or loose glutes or lack of control. What we really want to stay away from is toes going out and then ankles, so inside ankle bone, so right through here, ankles rolling in. So we definitely want to stay away from that. And we don't want to get the knees to go into a valgus position. So a lot of athletes are going to get there, and we don't want to let that happen. We don't want to continue that trend. So the toes forward, knees in line with the toes is our goal. All right. If our toes are out, like a sumo position, like knees need to go out. If our toes are forward, knees need to go forward. This comes whether we're jumping, landing, squatting, sprinting, any of those exercises or any of those drills or movement patterns that you'll have in sport. So definitely want to stay away from a lateral shift, because this is my right-hand side. So do I shift to my lateral side? Am I doing that because of a weakness here? Am I doing that because of a weakness on this side or a previous injury over here on my left-hand side to shy away from it? All those things are things that we're looking at. Does our low back arch a whole lot in order to squat, or do we get down here and then kind of round forward? So that's what we're looking at with our squat with our hands elevated. Single leg squat. Sorry, I'll move it back down again. So I'll come back here. Single leg squat, hands on the hips. Remember, it's kind of an awkward position. We're not letting the foot go forward or backwards. We're trying to squat down and stand back up. So as you can tell here, I'm trying to keep my feet forward and my knee to go in line with my toes. So that's the thing that I'm looking for. If we lose stability with our hands off our hips or if the other foot touches, those are point deductions. Okay, so if you're looking at your sheet here, so the T is the amount of times that you touch the ground. The V is the amount of times that your legs goes into a valgus position. Okay, always want the knee to stay in line. If your knee goes here, that's a valgus stress at the knee. If your knee goes wider than your foot, then that's a varus stretch. Typically, we don't see varus as much. We're going to see a valgus position. So that's getting us away from getting to a barbell front rack position or back squat and then squatting and coming out of it like this, or going through a jump and then going right before we leave the ground, knees caving in. And this is pretty simple. Like if you're seeing somebody move around, I'm trying to have my knees in line or out. So if you see somebody squatting, this is going to be a much better position or powerful position rather than toes out and knees caving in and going here. All right, so this is kind of the position that it's going to produce here rather than knees in line, good squat, stand back up. Wall ankle flexion. So that was where we put your foot in the ground. We measured 4 inches from the box or from the wall. I'm trying to see how far this knee can go over the toe. This is relevant because if you have limited ankle range of motion, then you're going to get to a stopping point right here. So imagine there's a line going straight up from my toe, and my knee's not allowed to go over my toe because I don't have good ankle range of motion. So if that happens, and I go through my squat, I'm going to be limited here. I can't go any further forward, which would keep my back upright. So I have to kind of squat down here. So I don't want my upper torso to be at a greater angle than my shin angle. So the goal would be to get here and be able to have my upper body and my shin angle being parallel. So look at my shins here, look at my upper body. I want my upper body to be at least parallel to my shin, possibly a little more upright. That will be our goal. So that is why ankle range of motion is so important. Okay, that keeps us grounded whenever we squat. That allows us to get into a better depth of our squat and doesn't limit us from a range of motion standpoint. So it's not necessarily ankle pain or ankle issues that we're looking at. We're looking at low back, we're looking at knee, we're looking at hip, all those things that could possibly be addressed, not necessarily eliminated, but those are some things we're looking at whenever we see a lack of ankle range of motion on your test. Okay, shoulder behind the back bow tie. You're looking at internal rotation of the throwing side. Okay, so if I'm a right-handed athlete, when I go out to the side, when my right arm goes down, I'm not going to be as good with my right arm down as I am with my left arm down. So I can just about touch my hands here with my thumbs inside my wrists. Here, I'm limited. Now, that's not great. Okay, I don't want you to be as bad off as I am, but I did throw a baseball for 20 years, might or might not have done things right, and I'm out of throwing for a while. So that's probably some limitations that I have there. So we're looking at the side, the side that's down. That's the arm that we're looking at evaluating on the behind the back bow tie. Shoulder flexion, okay? That's the imaginary wall behind you. Can I take my arm up and touch that wall without elevating my rib cage? So this is looking at trunk angle, all right, and spine control, scapular control as I raise my arm up. So if I get in this position and my elbow bends, or I have to open up my rib cage and I guess arch my back in order to maintain posture or to get my hand to the wall, then that would be an issue, possibly with a lat, maybe even upper trap, delts. There's a lot of things that could be going on there. So that's probably going to be one of those things that we look at and put up at your limitations up at the top, or excuse me, not your limitations, your key area for improvement. That's what I'm looking for. So that's the shoulder flexion, shoulder external rotation. I want us to be able to get my forearm past my rib cage, or like if you could imagine my spine coming down here, I want to get my arm back there past that. So this position here is not that great. I'm probably equal to, I'm not greater than, but if you look at my right arm, which I'm a right-handed athlete, my forearm's going to be better. So if you're anywhere near that equal to or not as far back as your spine, that's a significant issue for a thrower, and we need to make sure that we hone in on that and make sure that we're getting proper range of motion with all of our rotator cuff exercises, and that's going to be a key area for you to improve. Okay, thoracic spine extension. So we're going to go move this down. This is a tough one for me personally. So right side is going to be here, good lunge position. When I get my hands elevated, I bring my knee up. I'm trying to lean back as far, oh, I'm not that great, as I can. I'm trying to get my shoulders past my knee here. So I'm trying to get all the way back and get my shoulder position past my knee. So if you weren't there, you have a limitation there. So you're going to probably have a yes next to it, which means there's a limitation. That's key because whenever, like for pitchers, for example, so we're getting here, I want to have layback. I want to have spinal extension, okay, as I go through to throw the ball. So I want to have this position with my back as opposed to being straight up and down and trying to throw a baseball here. With that being said, you're not going to have, if your spine's straight up and down and you don't have any flexion, then our layback's not going to be that great, okay? So you've all seen those pictures of pitchers halfway through their mechanics or about to go to ball release, and that hand is like way down here. Looks like their elbow's about to explode. So pretty much everybody's going to get into that position or should get in that position. And it's not necessarily external rotation as much as it could be or probably is spinal position and scapular control. So just imagine this. So if my external rotation's okay, and I'm getting in this position, I'm not going to get the layback that I was talking about. So at maximum layback, you want that ball to actually be below your elbow, which is going to create that whip to throw the ball forward, okay? Well, if I don't have extension and I'm straight up and down, this is kind of all I have. Now watch what happens when I extend. The hand gets way down there, and then you would lock out your front foot and you would go towards, go forward to ball release and hopefully create some significant velocity. So those are, that's the range of motion up there with your shoulder, your flexion, your external rotation, and your lunge position with spinal extension. That's why all those areas are so key for you to create power, because we need range of motion, we need space to develop power, and then we also have to get those positions and get out of them in an explosive manner. Okay. Shoulder strength is the next thing, so that's pretty self-explanatory. Always strong here, and internal and external strength. You'll be in the shoulder strength category if you're anything below 4. So 4s, we're just trying to make it simple here. It's based off of a 4 to 5 point scale. 4 is great with us. 1 means you have a significant issue, and we need to make sure that we address that in our program and give you some extra work on top of that. FMS push-up, that's the one where we are trying to get our hands at the height of our forehead. See if I can get the camera here. So forehead height, hands there, feet are together. We're trying to go up at the exact same time with our full body. If we cannot link that together and we do like a worm on the way up, that's a significant issue with our core stability. Can I produce power with my upper half on the push-up? The lower half's going to control too. Can I stabilize through my core? If I'm not able to do that just yet, that would be an issue. That's a direct correlation for us for lateral agility. As kind of weird as that is, if my core is under control, just think about like a cartoon. Like a cartoon character, they go and their feet are like out of the screen and then their upper body goes. I want to be able to make a plant and change the direction and have my entire body move in unison and together in order to create power laterally as explosive as possible. That's based off of a 3-point scale. 3 is great, 2 is okay, you probably had a little bit of a worm, and that's when we moved your thumbs down to the chin height for your push-up. It makes it a little bit easier, and then 1 would be chest height, and then a 0 would mean if you had pain while you did it. Okay, hamstring straight leg raise on the ground, that's pretty self-explanatory. We're looking at pelvis, like imagine I'm on the ground here. If you get your leg all the way up and past kind of mid-thigh, with both legs staying straight, that's a really good position. That'd be a 3 out of 3. 2 out of 3 is if you can get to your knee height. 1 out of 3 is if you cannot get to your knee without both knees bending. Thoracic rotation in a child's pose. So that one's a really good one. It's going to be tough for me to kind of show this, but the reason we get into this position, heels or butt all the way back to the heels, elbow down, and I'm going to kind of face the camera here. This position allows me to measure thoracic rotation. That's pretty tough. To measure thoracic rotation, and it locks in my lumbar spine. So lumbar is going to be down here in the lower back. Thoracic is going to be about right through here, all the way to the top of your shirt. Okay. I think this camera needs to come up a little bit. So thoracic is going to be right through here. It's about top of your shirt. And then cervical spine goes all the way up your neck into your skull. So we need to get most of our rotation, if not all of it, from our thoracic spine. But if we're locked up in our thoracic spine, that's going to jam up our lumbar spine, which is our lower spine, and put a lot more stress in an area that does not need to rotate, not built to rotate. So that's a key area. You obviously understand that from a rotational standpoint, being able to separate hip and shoulder, get the hips to go, and then the chest follows, whether we're throwing, hitting, swinging, any type of rotational sport. This goes for golfers, tennis players, volleyball, baseball, softball, javelin, any of that, okay? So in general, that's what we're looking at. And now when we look at your total body picture, again, you're looking at right-hand side here, you're looking at left-hand side over here. You should follow my cursor. So on our right-handed athletes, typically our left-hand side is going to be a little bit better, okay? We don't want to be a ton better, but left-hand side is typically a little bit better for our lower half because our left side is typically going to stop us when we throw and create good force to the ground. It's going to initiate hip rotation, okay, from our left-hand side. With basketball players, typically going to shoot a layup, you're going to jump off that left foot. A lot of things combined are going to kind of add into the left side being typically better. I don't want it to be way better. So if you're looking at the different side to side here, I want you to be within a 15-point range or else it's a significant red flag for us. So obviously we kind of made this really bad for Jared just for y'all to see that. So hopefully there's nobody at a right hand 22 and a left at 76, especially if you're a right hand thrower. But if you're outside a 15-point range at the shoulders, at the hips, at the knee, and at the ankle, or at the ankle, then that would be a red flag for us. Okay, you're probably going to see some correctives up there in your program. So watch out for that. Obviously, I want you in the green. Yellow would be okay. We need to get out of the yellow, try to go towards the green, and then red. Anywhere is a significant issue for us, whether that's single leg stability, whether that's not being able to do a single leg squat very well, or your double leg squat looked pretty bad because we had a lateral shift to one side. Your hamstring range of motion is probably going to play into that too if we're really tight there. So a bunch of different things that are up here on the test that'll kind of show you where we are. Over here on the right hand side, you're looking at just total body, where our shoulder is, our hip, our core, knees, and ankle. We do not have a power summary right now for our teams. We will have that right here for an individual. But in general, that's kind of the plan, and that's what we're looking at, okay? So if there's any questions about yours specifically, please contact us, and we can go over it with you. We should have a norm for y'all's team, but I'd like for you to be above 60. Anything above 70 is typically a really, really good score. 80 and above is awesome. But the big thing down here is when you look at the full body picture is why that's relevant to you, and then make sure this opens up your eyes to say, hey, look, this is an area for me specifically, whether that's my lack of range of motion in my throwing arm, lack of strength in my throwing arm, okay, or lack of ankle range of motion, which is going to be an issue with a lot of things that we do because we're going to do a lot of lower body work. Am I good on a single leg? That's important because baseball, softball, and most of the sports we're working with, well, really any sport is a single leg sport. So if you're throwing, we're going from leg to leg. When you sprint, you're not on 2 feet at the same time, ever. When we hit, we're loading from one side into the other, and at contact, your back foot's going to be off the ground. When you change direction, I don't care if you're an offensive lineman. If you're changing direction, that's a 1 foot pushing, 1 foot stabilizing, okay? If we're jamming up with somebody on the defense side of the ball, like everything is going to be on one leg. You might be able to get a little bit on 2 legs at times, but as far as power production, typically, it's not going to be both legs at the same time. It's a unilateral or single leg sport is what we play 9 times out of 10. So that's an overview of why all these things are significant and why we're looking for them and why that would correlate into your sport on the field. And that's why we need to correct these things as well as gaining your strength and power development, which we're trying to get done in our typical just general weight training program. So with these 3 or 4 or 5 exercises you're going to have based off of your key areas for improvement, make sure you lock in, make sure you understand how these are significant for you specifically. Pretty tough to make the team on the training table. You've heard it all the time. You can't make the team on the table. So you can't provide for your team. You can't go out there and win a MVP trophy or anything personally if you're on the training table. You're doctor shut you down for a little bit. And some of you guys probably know that from experience. So health is number one. Like, I don't care how strong you are, if you're not healthy enough to play your sport, it's of no value. Okay, so we have to be able to move well, we have to produce power, but if I'm not on the field, none of this stuff matters. Okay, so make sure you put some pride and some ownership into your program specifically in order to help out your team. This is an individual movement analysis for you specifically to make sure that you can help out your team and maximize y'all's capability on the field, and go after the ultimate goal, which is state championship, national championship, or whatever sport we're playing. All right. Any questions, holler at us. Our information is all over our website and on Team Builder or whatever platform we're using to send you all the programs. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Call us if you have any questions. Thank you.